Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are skipping the pleasantries, we're avoiding all the lengthy prepared remarks, and we're diving straight into the fire.
The unfiltered question and answer session.
Exactly. The Q&A from the LifeMD Q3 2025 earnings call. This is where you really see the strategy and maybe the vulnerabilities revealed under pressure from analysts.
That's so true. The prepared script, that tells you what the company wants you to hear.
Right.
The Q&A forces them to address their biggest challenges head on. And our sources show a company trying to pull off a massive transformation.
A transformation how?
They're essentially trying to move from being this, fast-moving startup to a fully integrated healthcare system. It's a huge, high-stakes pivot.
And our mission here is to pull out those specific nuggets of strategy for you, the listener. So what were the two big forces that are shaping their future right now?
The analysts really locked on the two things. First, this absolutely ferocious price war happening in the GLP-1 or the weight management space.
Just a total bloodbath.
Totally. And second, the really critical pivot the company's making, they're sort of abandoning that low-cost model in favor of the complex but much more durable world of insurance coverage.
Okay, let's unpack this because that competition piece is the main story right now.
It is.
Weight management is still their core engine. It's making up more than 50% of their total revenue mix. But the Q3 numbers, they showed a bit of a slowdown. The subscriber base was slightly flat, maybe even down about 1,000 users.
Which, that stabilization actually occurred despite just intense competition, so you could almost call it a small victory.
A victory just to hold the line.
Exactly. But it reveals the pressure points. They are holding their ground, but they are spending a lot of money to do it, and the consumer is speaking with their wallet.
And what are they saying?
Well, the Q&A revealed that over half, we're talking more than 50% of all new patient signups are now actively choosing the branded FDA-approved therapy.
Over the historically cheaper compounded versions?
Precisely. It suggests patients are prioritizing, perceived safety, efficacy. Maybe their doctors are guiding them that way. It's a major long-term signal.
That sounds like a good thing, right?
Yeah.
A shift toward quality. But there has to be a huge economic cost that comes with that.
Oh, there is an immediate sting. Yeah.
So what's the cost?
When a patient chooses the branded product, the company loses the fulfillment fee they used to get from the personalized compounds.
And that fee was what?
It was roughly $50 per order. So you multiply that $50 loss across tens of thousands of orders a month.
That's a significant immediate hit to their gross margin.
It is. It's a classic business choice, though. You're trading that immediate high margin for, hopefully, a much better long-term customer lifetime value.
And this trade-off is happening while the CEO said they're getting beat up every single day by competitors.
Right.
And this is where it gets really interesting, this competitive squeeze. We're seeing these aggressive, low-cost marketers just flooding the space.
They are. Offering compounded GLP-1s for sometimes as low as, $99 for the first month?
You cannot possibly compete with that on price.
No way. Even with LifeMD's best deals on branded cash pay, they're still in the $349 to $499 range.
Yeah.
The CEO was very frank. He said it's just incredibly difficult to compete when you're worried about the quality and the safety of what some of those cheap competitors are even offering.
So if they can't win the price war now, they're basically betting on the future. They're playing the long game, expecting two huge events to just reset the market for them.
Exactly. So catalyst number one, they are betting that the price of branded therapies from, Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly will keep dropping.
They become what? Truly accessible.
Yeah, until they're in that critical $200 to $300 a month range. That would close the gap with the low-cost guys organically.
And catalyst number two is purely regulatory. This is the one the CEO seemed most hopeful about.
Oh, yeah. The highly anticipated potential FDA crackdown on compounding for this specific class of drugs.
And he called it what?
He literally said it would be an amazing thing for our business. If that crackdown happens, it instantly reduces the volume of that low-cost, maybe low-quality competition. It just clears the field.
But isn't that inherently risky? Betting your entire financial model on a regulatory event? What if the FDA takes years to act?
And that is the core risk, absolutely. But the Q&A showed they aren't only betting on that. Their primary defense is building a moat that price just can't cross.
Which brings us to your second point, the power of insurance and integrated care.
Exactly.
This shift away from cash pay is where they're putting all their energy. And analysts pointed out this massive problem they had to solve first.
The drop-off rate.
Yeah, at least 25% of patients who signed up would just drop off because they didn't have insurance coverage for the expensive medication. A quarter of your revenue, just walking away.
It's a huge leak in the funnel, but they gave this staggeringly important data point during the Q&A about their solution.
I saw this. After turning on broad insurance support covering, 100 to 150 million lives?
They saw a 33% reduction in their customer acquisition cost, their CPA, in that specific segment.
A 1/3 reduction in the cost to get a customer. That's not just better, that's transformational.
It's the proof point. It's what the analysts needed to hear to validate this whole strategy shift.
And it really brings up a key question, right?
Yeah.
How essential is their synchronous care model, having a live provider, to even play in this benefits world?
It's everything. The insurance world demands that level of quality interaction. You can't just do it with asynchronous messages.
So that quality model is their ticket into the insurance game and also into massive government programs. They confirm they are 100% ready to go with Medicare.
Right, once Medicare starts covering these drugs. And that's their whole differentiation argument against, say, a Costco or an Amazon.
Right, the fulfillment-only guys.
Yeah. The goal is to be a true virtual care destination. Those companies can deliver a box, but they can't match the breadth of service.
They're looking way beyond just the GLP-1s. They're talking about preventative care, lab work, hormone replacement therapy.
And that new cardiovascular offering they're launching in early January.
It's about being an integrated healthcare hub.
And this is where their own in-house pharmacy becomes such a key advantage. They've stepped back from compounding GLP-1s, but they can use their 503A pharmacy for non-GLP-1 therapies.
Like what?
Think hormone optimization, specialty dermatology, things that many of their competitors just can't easily match. It keeps a really specific, high-margin slice of the business in-house.
And this whole cross-selling strategy, it really all hinges on their tech.
It does. The new app and website, which is rolling out by early Q1 2026, they expect it to have a massive impact.
And they gave numbers on that, didn't they?
They did. Initial expectations are that the new app could generate, say, 50 to 100 cross-care consult signups per day, just right off the bat.
Which might sound small, but you multiply that out.
Over a full year, and that is thousands of new revenue streams. It boosts lifetime value, and it gets them away from that expensive one-time customer acquisition model.
Okay, let's pivot to the financial mechanics that the analysts were really digging into, specifically the gross margin pressure.
Right, the telehealth gross margin, or GM, it declined from a stellar 89% down to 86%.
So a 3% dip.
Yeah.
On the surface, that seems manageable, but what's really driving it?
What's so fascinating is that the CFO clarified it wasn't because any single product line was failing. It was just a classic change in the revenue mix.
Like your best-selling item suddenly changes.
Exactly, and there were two main causes.
Okay.
Cause number one was what we just talked about, that shift to branded GLP-1s. Losing that $50 fulfillment fee, that alone was about 150 basis points of the decline.
So half of it, right there.
Half of it. And cause number two was a shift in which platform was dominant. A year ago, their LifeMD men's health platform was the biggest revenue source. And that business has GMs in the upper 80s.
But now weight management, with its current margin challenges, is the biggest piece of the pie.
Exactly. The mix shifted.
And speaking of LifeMD, that platform did rebound pretty well in Q3. It added 10,000 net new members.
Yeah, and about 8,000 of those came from the sexual health side of the business. And their acquisition costs are staying remarkably stable.
That's good. But looking ahead, the company expects the overall GM rate to see, and I'm quoting, mild erosion.
Which is counterintuitive for a growth company, right? You expect margins to go up.
So you need context, and that context is mental health.
It's mental health. New, huge growth areas like that have lower GMs to start, maybe in the 70s.
Well, why do it?
Because the company emphasized that mental health is expected to be highly accretive to the bottom line.
Let's unpack that term, accretive. How can a lower margin product add more to the bottom line?
It's all about the customer acquisition cost.
Okay.
Mental health patients often find their providers through, organic search or word of mouth. They don't require these massive, expensive ad campaigns like weight management does.
So even if the margin's lower, the profit is higher because you didn't spend a fortune to get the customer in the first place.
That's it, exactly. You're basically trading maybe 10% of gross margin for a 50% savings on ad spend. It makes perfect financial sense for long-term scale.
It does. Now, before we get to the final big catalyst, what about that timeline for their 503A pharmacy?
The CEO gave a very aggressive schedule on that. They expect rapid licensing. They're aiming for 35 state licensure within the next 60 to 90 days.
Oh, that's fast.
Super fast. And they expect to get to near 50 state coverage soon after. It's vital for them to control the margin on their other compounded therapies.
Okay, so finally, let's hit the section that promises to just redefine this whole market. The single biggest potential catalyst discussed in the Q&A.
The oral revolution.
The oral revolution.
This is the massive unknown. The conversation was all about the expected FDA approval of the WGOI pill, which could launch in January, and then Eli Lilly's oral GLP-1 later in 2026. It fundamentally changes everything.
And analysts wanted to know the big question. How much bigger does the market get if patients don't need injections anymore?
The CEO was careful here. He acknowledged it's really hard to quantify. I mean, an oral weight loss drug with this level of efficacy, it's never existed before.
But he gave his personal estimate.
He did. His personal estimate was enormous, potentially expanding the total market by 25 to 50%.
A 50% market expansion just from changing the delivery method. That's a staggering forecast.
It is, and he grounded it in this really human moment. He said that in his own social circles, he personally knows a number of people who are, quote, just waiting for the oral product to come to market.
Wow.
It just shows you the simple psychological barriers, like just not wanting a needle, that can define these multi-billion-dollar markets. It's about unlocking massive mainstream adoption among the needleverse.
So if we synthesize all of this data from the Q&A, what does it all mean for you, the listener?
I think the session really revealed a company in this radical transition. It's moving away from a very difficult, low-cost provider battle, a battle it knows it can't win against $99 offers.
And it's moving toward becoming an integrated, insurance-enabled, high-quality platform. They're basically investing in complexity as their competitive moat.
Yep. They're placing their biggest bets on regulatory stability, on branded drug prices dropping, and on this massive wave of needle-averse consumers that oral therapies could bring in.
And that initial data, that 33% CPA reduction from using insurance, it's just as the whole painful shift is probably financially warranted, even with a temporary margin hit.
Absolutely. They're using their live synchronous care model to get into the lucrative insurance market while building out the tech and the pharmacy infrastructure to make them durable against the simpler fulfillment-only players.
And that leads us to our final thought for you to consider. Given that we're talking about potentially expanding the weight management market by up to 50% with oral therapies, what untapped area of virtual health, beyond weight loss, is also just one simple delivery change or one tech solution away from massive mainstream adoption?
Think about the small barriers that, once they're eliminated, could open up a total floodgate of new consumers.